Hey, what's up? This is Stubby. I'm going to walk you through a first gen Mitsubishi Montero body lift. I got this kit from adventuredrivendesign.com. If you've got a Mitsubishi, a Toyota, a Dodge, check them out. They got a lot of cool stuff over there. I'll put a link here in the comments. All right, so what do you need to get this lift kit installed? 14, 12, 10 millimeter socket wrench, extensions, etc. 9/16 for the new bolt. Phillips and flathead screwdrivers. The small magnetic light is super helpful. If you have somebody to help, that will save you a lot of time, but you can do it by yourself. A good jack with a big, tall reach. Some sort of cutting device, depending on how you want to do the back end. We'll talk about that when we get there. And then the kit from Adventure Driven Design. So this installation will cover the short wheelbase model, but the long wheelbase should be similar as well. Going from front to back, there's two up front behind the bumper. You have two there at the front of the cab, just about where the door seam is, two in the back there of the back door seam, and then you've got four in back. And two of those we'll talk about when we get to it. They might be somewhat optional depending on how you want to run your bumper setup. So I want to walk you through a few things before you get started. First of all, that body's going up, but the engine's staying in the same place. So your bottom half of your radiator shroud will need to be removed. If you're somewhere cold, maybe you can get away with it for the year. But if you're somewhere in the South, Phoenix, SoCal, Texas, you're going to want to move the radiator, the fan shroud, get that figured out so that you're still keeping that cool air coming through properly. Another thing to look at is your fuel filler neck clamp. It bolts onto the frame here. You're going to want to unbolt that. That's going to go up as well. You can kind of figure out an extension there, or maybe you leave it. Do whatever you want, but just make sure it is unbolted before you go up. While you're back there, check out your fuel lines. Whether you're running the stock fuel pump or the electric fuel pump, that's going to go higher. So disconnect that before you go up, and then you can see if you need to extend that after the body lift is done. Also, another thing to look at is those brake lines up in the front wheel well. Just kind of keep an eye on everything as you're going up. If you hear any creaking or tweaking, stop, give everything a good look before you go up any higher. I also removed all of the bolts before I started lifting the body up. That way, there's no tweaking or anything. Here's how I did it. I used a block of wood and Harbor Freight's cheapest jack available. Here I'm using the pinch welds. Some of the other spots in the back and on the body, you may have to be applying force to the body. So if you can use some wood or find some way where you're not pushing metal into metal. I didn't notice any damage where I use this, but use whatever best practice you have available. Starting up front, you'll have two bolts recessed in that front lower support there. These may be covered up by a silver metallic strip or something. So you may have to peel that off just to get hold of the bolt. Otherwise, it's pretty simple. Going back to the next set of body mounts, you'll need to pop off the door sill trim. There'll be some Phillips head screws on the inside, while the outside have these clips that go into the white slot there in the middle of the arrow. Use a trim tool or a flathead screwdriver if you don't have one to pull them out. They'll give a pretty good fight. Once you get that sill up, you can pull the carpet back, and underneath that black rubber plug will be the bolt there. These ones are pretty easy to get to. The next set is the aft body compartment. These, you'll have to pull the carpet back. What I ended up having to do was removing the old mount, feeding the bolt in through the hole, and then just sitting it up here in the compartment, and then putting the new body mount in, and then putting the bolt in. So for the next set of pucks, you'll have to remove the brake light assemblies and reach into this adjacent compartment to get the bolts out and in. It will take a little finagling to get those in and out as well. This is where you're going to want to use those longer bolts. The last set of pucks will go here underneath the rear hatch. You can kind of go one way or another. Some folks have just simply cut those off and retain that stock bumper look there. I happen to have a friend with a plasma cutter, so I notched out the bumper, but you can see the body lift will stick up above it. So it's kind of up to you on which direction you want to go there. So here's where I just traced out where the body mounts would be. And then I went ahead and cut those out. But again, it's up to you. Maybe you want to build a custom bumper. Maybe you don't care about the stock look, or maybe you don't need it. You can kind of go whichever way you want. Last thing to do is look at your shifter assembly. This is going to be shorter, so you may need to find an extension for that and for the four-wheel drive shift. I give your brake lines, fuel lines, give everything a good look over before you send it down the road. Make sure nothing's pulling or tugging, but with that lift kit, you shouldn't have too many issues. So good luck and happy trails.